Have you all got your textbook already? A copy of it, at least?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so some of you have it, some of you have not. But I think the most important thing is, I think today what I want to do is to set up this scene about the whole module, yeah, so that we know where we stand. If you have the textbook, if you actually look at the textbook, as I mentioned 2 weeks ago in the introduction to taxation, it is all computational. It's just computation. Yeah? The textbook is just computation. And next week I will do my PowerPoint. I'm not sure how to share PowerPoint here, but I'll try and learn before next Thursday to talk about your approach to the assignment and everything else. Yeah? So in terms of the module, it is totally 100% coursework, totally assignment. So what I've done is, if you look at Canvas yesterday, you will see the first assignment, and the weighting is 60%. I think in the module originally it was 50-50, but I've split it to 60-40, give more weighting on the first assignment. And the second assignment will do the project leader. It appears that ACCA has approved that one of the coursework or one of the assignment can be a group assignment. So the second assignment, if you seek to, you can do it as a group or individual. Yeah, but I haven't set up what the second assignment is. But once I've done that, you can decide whether you want to do it as a group or individually. Yeah. The only problem with doing a group, I'm not sure about your other modules, but I think no more than 4 people maximum in a group. It can be 1, 2, 3. Well, 1 is a solo, but if it's 2 to 4, it's okay. Yeah? But you have to make sure that everybody in the group do their part. Yeah, because I have noticed that in the past with group assignment, some groups have done really, really well. You know, they get 90%, 85%, 92%. But when you look at the individual exam marks, some people within that group have actually failed the exam. So they've managed to pass overall because they've done very well in the course assignment. Yeah. So I think the important thing is when you decide your group, give me 2 weeks, I think I'll give you a second assignment. But your first assignment, if anybody read it? Have you read it yet? Or at least looked at it on Canvas?
Yes, sir.
I did mention to you anyway what it's going to be anyway. And both assignments, there will be no computational work that you need to do. So basically the textbook only becomes a reference for you to do your assignment. Yeah, the certain chapters, relevant chapters, because there will be no requirement to do detailed text computation, no need for you to do detailed text planning of different organizations. So it'll all just be essay based. Yeah. So the first one is quite straightforward, as it sounds. As we know, Brunei, announced a budget deficit again of 3.61 billion for the budget year of 2021-2022. Yeah, and this is the 6th year in a row that the Brunei government has announced a deficit. And of course, when you get your allowance, if you get $400, you spend $600, you need to find the extra $200 somewhere. Either you ask from your parents, can I have $200, or you have savings, or you borrow money from someone, yeah, so that you can actually pay the shortfall. So just like government, when government spends more than what it receives, it needs to find the money somewhere. But the Brunei government doesn't actually announce how the deficit is been covered. Although in 2008, if you Google search, the Brunei government did set up what is known as the Sustainability Fund. So you just Google search Sustainability Fund. Within the Sustainability Fund, there's the Fiscal Stabilization Fund, the Pension Fund, and the Strategic Development Corporation Fund. Yeah. So for the purpose of taxation, the Fiscal Stabilization Fund is very important. I think when it was set up in 2008, if my memory serves me right, I think there was $10.8 billion in the fund, 2008, yeah, so that's 13 years ago. And the idea is, where the government has a deficit, In other words, where the government expenditure is more than its income, the government will utilize some of the funds from its fiscal stabilization fund to help overcome that deficit. Yeah? So it's like the savings account. Yeah? So the government will take from this stabilization to stabilize the fiscal fluctuation. But if you read all the government budget, there's nothing that has been announced how the budget has been financed. Yeah? So your assignment is, if you look at the textbook in chapter 1, the first chapter, it will talk about the UK taxation system. Yeah. So the UK, you have, those of you who attended my first lecture, you have corporation tax, personal income tax, inheritance tax, capital gains tax, inheritance tax, and then we have value-added tax and GST. Yeah, if you remember the first lecture. Yeah? So this is the taxes that we have in the UK. If you can't remember them, look at chapter 1 in the textbook. Yeah, that's an introductory to different taxes in Brunei, in the UK. In Brunei, we only have one main source of tax, actually two: petroleum income tax, which is tax on petroleum companies, and corporation tax, or we call it income tax in Brunei, tax on companies that are subjected to tax, which are Sdn Bhd, public companies, public limited companies, and branches of foreign companies. Yeah, so these are the three companies subjected to tax. So the main source of revenue in Brunei obviously is from petroleum income tax, as I mentioned in my first lecture. More than 90% of Brunei's tax revenue just comes from Brunei Shell, Brunei LNG, and Total. So these three companies that pay 55% tax accounts for a significant amount of the Brunei tax revenue. Now, if you go to the JPKE website, you can see the statistics. You can see that government revenue has reduced because oil production has gone down, and also because oil production has gone down, oil prices had been going down as well, declining. Government revenue has reduced significantly, from more than 10 billion to now it's only about 3 billion. Yeah, so we have a massive decline. So it is very important for government to diversify the economy away from oil and gas, because we are just totally relying at the moment on the energy sector for revenue. Yeah. So when you look at the assignment, it's basically government is running a deficit. How or what other additional taxes can government introduce in order to reduce the deficit? Yeah. How long can we sustain running the country at a deficit? There will reach a time where the suspendatory fund has no more money, that we need to either increase tax, reduce costs, or borrow money. Yeah. So the assignment that you will, the approach that you will take, the angle that you look at is, okay, we only have one tax in Brunei. Look at the UK tax. Google search other countries, Malaysia, Singapore, the Middle East, which is also energy based. What kind of additional taxes and what kind of taxes have they introduced to increase revenue? Okay, I mean, the most common tax is personal income tax, tax on a person. Yeah, so you are taxed based on your income, your salary. You get some sort of allowances as well, living allowances. Then you pay tax on your net income. Yeah, that is chapter 2. If you look at computing taxable income, you can see how. If you look at page 22 and 23 in the textbook, if you don't have it now, just write it down. You can see a pro forma of how a personal income tax is calculated. Yeah, just go through some of the examples. So for an individual, if you do decide to introduce personal income tax, there are basically three sources of revenue for individuals. Yeah, one is your non-savings income, which is your employment income, your salaries that you receive. The other one is your savings income. Savings income meaning you've invested money in securities, you've bought bonds, you have investment fixed deposits. So you just get interest. Yeah, okay. For the purpose of UK, is interest on your fixed deposits, investment linked, index linked investments. Yep. And then you have dividend income. What is dividend income? Dividend income is income that you earn from dividends received from the shares that you hold of companies. So for example, if you have BIBD shares, say you have 1,000 shares, yeah, in BIBD. BIBD offers a $1 dividend per share that you hold, then your income will be $1,000 dividend income, yeah? So the dividends is based on the shareholding that you have of that company. Yeah? So individuals have three major sources of revenue, and it's categorized, if you look at page 22, to non-savings income, savings income, and dividend income. Okay? You're all mute, so I cannot, I don't know, I don't get any reaction from anyone. Yeah. So better unmute, at least I can hear some voice, right? Like talking to a mirror. That's why I hate online teaching. I'm totally against online teaching, but what to do, I have to do it. Okay. So when you look at personal income, just look at chapter 2, look at the different examples. And I will not explain to you how to use the tax tables because I think you can just work it through here. But at the back of your textbook, or which would have been photocopied separately, there is your tax tables on page. Right at the back, yeah? So it tells you what tax rate you're subjected to. Either 20%, 40%, or 45%, depending on your level of income. So in Brunei, you could introduce this progressive tax rate or flat tax rate. Is entirely up to you how you want to do it, yeah? But whatever you recommend is justified, yeah? But most common taxation system in any part of the world will be a progressive tax system. The higher your income, the more tax you pay. So the idea is for the rich to be taxed so that it can use the money to help the lower or less income individuals. Yeah. In the UK, 30 over years ago, anybody want to guess what was the highest tax rate that was ever imposed by the British government?
12% maybe, sir.
12? Well, I don't mind 12%. The highest tax rate.
40? 40?
40, okay.
45? 45?
60?
Higher.
Oh,
8? 70?
83. 120.
How many? Somebody say 100%. It's 83%.
Wow.
Okay. So for every $1 you earn, you have to pay 83 cents in tax. So what happened in UK? A lot of people migrated out of the UK. The pop stars, the actors, the actresses, you know, all the people in show business. They moved to Monte Carlo, for example, yeah, because Monte Carlo has no tax. Or they moved to a jurisdiction where there's very low tax rate. So sometimes when you do too high a tax rate, it can be a deterrent for people to stay in the country. Then you end up collecting less tax. Yeah. So for example, in Brunei, our corporate tax rate used to be 30%. You know what it is now? Yeah, it was 30%. Now it's 18.5%. So even if you increase your profit, you double your profit, you're still going to pay the same tax as you did when it was the old tax rate. So what a lot of companies now do is they show their true profit figure. And they don't do a lot of, we call it window dressing tax planning, because there is no need for them to reduce their profit to show a lower tax rate. But in fact, the tax rate is much lower than that because for the first, can't remember now, 150,000, you only pay tax on 25% of that profit. And the next 150,000, you only pay 50% of that profit. Yeah. So when you look at the tax structure, one is personal income tax. Personal income tax is very common. Yeah. I mentioned also there's capital gains tax. Capital gains tax, if you look in the textbook, there's two types for individuals and for companies. I will cover that in a PowerPoint as we go along. Yeah. So next week, I will do a PowerPoint maybe Onku can teach me how to do it on this, where share presentation. I don't know where I click. Can't see. Where do you share? If I do a PowerPoint, where do I share it?
You see an arrow, sir,
Mana?
on the top, or other arrow on the top.
Share. Oh, okay, that one. And that you won't disappear.
No,
Okay,
we won't disappear.
Okay. I'll try that. I'll do a trial run with one of you anyway. Okay, so my PowerPoint next week will basically talk about tax system, what kind of tax system that needs to be in place, tax scandals as well, because there are a lot of, when you have a very unfair tax system, there will be a lot of fraud, a lot of tax evaders. If you ever watched the movie Tom Cruise, The Firm, which was showing in Cinemax recently, I think, it all talks about setting up offshore companies outside the US so that they can transfer all their profit out of the US into a tax-free or tax haven jurisdiction. Number one used to do that, the Jersey, Isle of Man, Vanuatu. There's a lot of offshore countries, islands actually, that provide this service. But now with what is known as the base erosion profit shifting legislation, wherever you shift the profit, the global leaders have agreed to, although it's not been signed yet, to have an agreed minimum tax rate. So if you have 1 billion profit, you would have to pay a tax of say 20%, that's 200 million. So it doesn't matter where your tax is, as long as the total tax you've paid, when you add up all the countries that you're operating, like Microsoft, they're in 100 over countries, then you consider as not being a company that has evaded tax. But of course now Apple, Microsoft may have 1 billion profit, they're only paying a few million tax, which is less than 1% tax. So that's why the legislation has come out to prevent companies from shifting profit from one country to another. The next common tax is, of course, capital gains tax. What is capital gains tax? Capital gains tax is if you hold BIBD shares, you bought it at $2 and you sell it, so you have 1,000 BIBD shares, so it costs you $2,000. Now it's $4. You sell it for $4, you've made a capital gain of $2,000, 4 minus 2, so that's your capital gain. In the UK, you're subjected to capital gains tax. In Brunei, you're not subjected to tax on that gain. Okay, so we do not have capital gains tax. So you may decide, should I introduce capital gains tax in Brunei so that the government can get another source of revenue. But bear in mind that we do not have a stock exchange, so capital gains tax may not work with shares and securities just yet, But the government is planning to set up the stock exchange. I mean, now with COVID, I think it's delayed, but hopefully by next year it will start. So once the stock market starts, a lot of people will be buying and selling shares. So they may make capital gains, and the government may consider, they may think about a different source of tax revenue. The other more common inheritance tax, I think because we follow Sharia, so don't look at inheritance tax. That's tax for when you die. In Brunei, we used to have a death duty of 3%, but that has been abolished about 10 years ago. So no need to look at inheritance tax. Okay. The other more common tax, which I'm sure you are familiar with, is GST or value added tax, VAT. Okay? When you go to Singapore, you go to Malaysia, you go to UK, you see VAT or GST. That is an indirect tax. Okay? So when you buy something, you're subjected to an increase of maybe 10%, 15%, depending on what the government's VAT is. If you do a Google search, you will see that the Middle East, three years ago, never had VAT or GST. But because of the falling oil prices, some of the Middle East countries introduced GST. Is that something that Brunei government can think about? Is it a potentially good source of revenue? Of course, when you have GST, when you impose tax on something, So if you buy a washing machine for $100, there's 5% GST. Instead of $100, it becomes $105. So the burden, the cost will be pushed onto us as consumers. Yeah. So the impact of GST is it increases the cost of something. It reduces our disposable income. So the question is, how do you balance government's revenue to we getting less to spend on? Yeah. So that's something you can research and look at. What rate of tax should I charge? If you want to find out more about indirect taxes, VAT, you can read chapter Part G, yeah, value added tax, chapter 24 and 25. Or easy, just Google search. Sometimes the textbook is a bit more confusing. Because the textbook talks to you. Oh, I think somebody's got their mobile phone near the speaker. I think. Okay, so when you look at VAT, there are two types of VAT, yeah, and the value-added tax. One is when you sell, it is output VAT because you add the VAT to your cost. But you have what is known as input VAT. When you buy something, you're paying the cost plus VAT as well. You have input, output. In a normal tax system is you can offset your output and input and pay the government only the difference. In most cases, in 99.9 cases, 99.9% cases, I mean, unless they got the costing right, your output VAT will always be higher than your input. Yeah, because you will always want to pass on the cost of your input to your output. Yeah. So in the manufacturing process, for example, when you manufacture a car has about 2,000 to 3,000 different bits. When you buy the windscreen from a supplier, it'll be the cost plus VAT. You buy the sparks, you buy the tires, you buy the rims, you buy all the control panels, everything in the car is cost plus VAT. So the cost of the car will be inclusive of the VAT that you pay, you suffered. When you sell the car, of course you have your cost plus profit, and you add on the VAT. So the output VAT will always be higher than the input. If it is not, then the company will be running at a loss. It'll be, well, the company wouldn't have survived, yeah, because there's no way that you can sell something lower than your cost. Then it's not a sustainable business. Okay, so the deadline of, I think it's about 2,000 to 2,250 to 2,500 words. And I have given you 3 months to complete it, almost 3 months. I just put a date, I can't remember, 20th of November. But if the examination board meets in December, then I will extend the deadline to end of November. Yeah. So I'm still waiting for the university to get back to me when the examination board is actually going to meet. Then I'll advise you what the deadline is. But you at least have nearly 3 months to prepare at least the first assignment. Yeah. So it should be okay. Yeah. And also, you can send me draft so that I can look at it to advise you, to guide you, to make sure you're on the right track. And you can think out of the box as well, yeah? Because a tax system doesn't have to be the conventional one that you read, like personal income tax, VAT, GST, and all the other taxes. You can think of other taxes as well, or other ways that the government can increase revenue, yeah? So when you look at yourself personally, when you have a limited income, what do you need to do? You need to control your costs. Yeah. Are there ways where government can reduce costs, control costs? Should they recommend that all UBD students' allowance should be cancelled now? Yeah. I mean, that's one way of reducing costs. But I don't. Maybe you can introduce it 3 years' time when you're already graduated, so it doesn't affect you. But yeah, those are the kind of things that needs to be considered. Do we have to pay for education? Do we need to pay for medical? Now with COVID, obviously the medical cost is quite high. So when the government has, say, 5.85 billion budget, and suddenly they're using more for medical, some of the other government departments may have to sacrifice some of their projects. Yeah. So at the moment, unfortunately, with the second wave, third wave, or Delta wave, whatever we may call it, a lot of the government resources are not concentrated on a lot of issues and a lot of capital expenditure relating to trying to control, monitor the COVID issue that we have in Brunei. Of course, we have increased the testing lab. Bright Access now have been developed into a testing lab as well. The government has to convert a lot of the schools and halls of residence, I think, students' residences into isolation centers. Now we have nearly 2,000 people. Maybe soon UBD student site might be converted into an isolation center. Don't tell people, I'm just speculating, yeah? Now that UBD is also a vaccination center. So with all this happening, a lot of the finance resources will be concentrated on other things. I'm not sure how to do your second assignment. I think I might split it into two parts, but it's going to be a group assignment. So by the time I give it to you, you will have more than 2 months to prepare. So since it's a group, the assignment will be about 2,005 to 3,000 words. Yeah, so that you can do a bit more in-depth research on it. Any questions? Make it 2 ways lah. Don't silent. Maybe are you playing games? I cannot see you all.
Understood, sir.
Questions?
So, any questions? Anything?
No questions, sir.
Okay. So the important thing is for taxation. If you would, and then make use of this ACCA exemption that's been given. Because when I mentioned to Dr. Abdul, I said, oh, all the coursework is going to be individual, there's no assignment to comply with ACCA. So he just messaged me a few to say that, oh, ACCA has come back to say that you can do one of the group assignment. Okay. And I know with COVID, it's going to be difficult for you to set up groups. So let's see how it develops, towards the end of next month. But actually, to be honest, with all this group assignment, the textbook is only a reference for you. Yeah, because if you were to, I was happy that my first lecture said, "Oh, I'm so happy you're going to have exams," and suddenly mulut masin, after that, next week at the COVID, no more exams for you all. So it's now coursework. Because if you want exams, then I tell you it'll be difficult for me to do this lecture online. Because taxation is purely computational. Apart from the first assignment, the exam is 100% computational. And I always prefer to do it on the board, on the whiteboard. I think there's an apps that you can use whiteboards also on here. But it's nice to be able to have interaction of the class so that, rather than me then write everything out, is for you to also provide me with some feedback and some, as to some of the tax computation. Now, when you go through the textbook, on the first chapter, the second chapter, computing taxable income, then as you progress to capital allowances, to calculation of profit chargeable to taxation, you will see that there's a standard format, for each of the different ways of computing the tax liability. So in this case, for example, on computing taxable income, page 22 and 23, if you look at that complete pro forma table on page 23, that's all you need to remember for the exams. So you have the headings. I hope you have the textbook in front of you. So you have the headings: non-savings income, savings income, dividend income as the main heading, and on the left side, the description is the trading income, employment, pension income, property income, and so on. Now, when you look at it, property income is something that you could consider in Brunei as well. It's a tax on rental income. So if you have a house, you have a shop lot, and you rent it out, then the income that you receive from the rental income would be subjected to tax. However, please remember that when you have income, you also need to incur an expense. Nobody gets income without an expense. But the underlying principle in taxation is the income must be wholly exclusively incurred for the purpose of the business. Okay? So if you have a house, and then you have to paint the house, you have to repair the house, you have to pay electricity, water, and all that is part of the cost and expense that is incurred in order for you to maintain the property. Yeah, I see my daughters running behind me and squatting so that you don't see them. That's the thing about. So, and then when you, so what I will do is, so what you can do is just read. No need to read. Okay, I tell you what you don't need to read. Yeah, no need to read chapter 5 and 12 and 17 and 18, 22 and 23. Yeah? You don't need to look at that. But if you want to read it, there's no harm reading it. Yeah, in case you got nothing to do. Since you're staying at home, I guess you could read as much as you like. But as I said, for your first assignment, use the textbook as your reference to give you some ideas. Yeah. So when you say, okay, I want to introduce personal income tax, don't just say personal income tax because give some examples. Yeah. How is it done in Malaysia? How is it done in UK? How is it done in any other country? You don't have to pick any of the countries that I mentioned. Yeah. A remote country, somewhere out of this world, example would also be quite good. And then come up with your own maybe tax. I cannot say what other ideas that students have done in the past. Otherwise, they might give the game away. But I think it's important that you can think of something that is workable in Brunei. Actually, I met Dato' Amin and I mentioned to him, I said, oh, by the way, Dato', now that you announced the budget, I'm going to ask my students to do an assignment based on how to increase tax revenues for the Brunei government. He looked at me and smiled. He said, okay, if you have any students that have done a really good paper, show it to me. Yeah. So the best of you, you never know, your paper I will take your name out, but it could end up in Dato' Amin's table. Yeah. For him to ponder. A lot of the people in government say, oh, all this is an academic exercise. I says, it's academic, but it could be a reality because, yeah, as I said, something that is not sustainable, you cannot use the reserves and the savings, yeah, of the country to survive. The only other way, I mean, if we borrow, who do we borrow from? What form of borrowing in order to do it, yeah? And I think it's important that we do not use too much of our savings as well, because once you use your savings, it is very difficult to replenish your savings. And maybe you should come up with some incentive to introduce so that the government can diversify the economy away from oil and gas. Because what you're looking at is one of a few things. How do you reduce costs? One is to reduce unemployment. Yeah. Unemployment, the job center is actually a center that subsidizes employment. Yeah. If you get a job under iReady, under the job center, the government pays the salary of these individuals of $800 a month. Yeah. So if I employ 10 people from iReady, my cost is zero. I don't have to pay anything. The government pays everything for 2 years. Yeah. Then after 1 year, maybe you need to consider confirming them. But if the government provides incentive for companies to grow, for companies to nurture, and they create employment opportunities, then the number of people in the job center will reduce. When the numbers in the job center reduces, it reduces the government's burden to pay every month $800, $9,600 a year for each individual that is under the iReady program. I think there are a few thousand people on the program, so if these figures reduce, then the government budget will also reduce for the requirement to help pay for all these students or graduates under iReady. It is a very good scheme. My daughter was under iReady previously, then she was confirmed. But still, and when I was in KPMG, I had a few people under iReady. And the good thing is sometimes you can abuse the system. You might get 4 or 5 people where you have zero cost, but they generate revenue to you. So that's something you can consider. Oil subsidy, do the government need to reduce the oil subsidy? If you look at the petrol prices, if you buy, I don't know, what's that super thing? You got hijau, V, if you buy V is about 80 cents, but the normal hijau, it's 53 cents. Now, if you buy diesel V, it is also 80 plus cents, same price as normal petrol. So that shows that the subsidy that the government is giving is more than 50% of the oil price. Yeah. So if the government decides to reduce subsidy, that means the price of petrol may increase. So that reduces government's expenditure as well. Yeah? So you need to have an open mind as to how we can reduce the government's expenditure gradually. Okay. So in terms of government pension, those who work in government since 1992 are not under pension, under TAP. So the government obligation liability for pension also is starting to reduce, because a lot of people, not many people now, even at firm site level, are on pension scheme. Most of them are on TAP. So when they retire, the government is not obligated to give them 2/3 of their salary until they are 70. Until then, they get full salary once they are 70 above. But during independence, 1984, the average mortality rate of male and female was below 70 years old. I think for female was 60, for male was 66 years. A female was about 69 years. Now, the mortality rate is nearly 80. The average age of people dying is about 80 years old. Yeah, women about 79, men 77. So in the old days, when the pension scheme was in place, they never budgeted more than 70 years, because once you reach 70, you get your pension is your last drawn salary. Yeah? So you get your full salary after when you're 70. And as time gone by, a lot of people were living to more than 70, so that became a burden to the government. Yeah, because they had to make sure they had enough money to pay all the pension obligation. So if you look at if Google search the sustainability order, under the sustainability order, there's the pension order, and the purpose of that pension order is to make sure that sufficient money is invested and put aside to make sure that they can pay the monthly pension obligations of all the former government servants or the retired government servants, and those who are more than 70 years old. Yeah. Now with TAP, the government does not have to pay anything because you are contributing and the company is contributing. When you are 55, you can take out all your TAP. Then when you're 60, you get your Kunia has $250, yeah? But that is small compared to the total obligation. So you can look at the different forms, you know. Look at yourself individually. If I get a salary of a certain amount, how will my disposable income be impacted if there's VAT? How will my personal income be impacted if there's personal income tax and other taxes? Yeah. So if there's VAT, obviously the cost to buy groceries will increase. If there's personal income tax, my net disposable income will be reduced. And also you need to ask yourself, what kind of tax system do I need to put in place? When I was working in London, whatever salary I receive is the amount that I know I can spend without thinking about paying tax. Because the KPMG system is, we have what is known as pay as you earn system, PAYE. You'll see in the text. So basically the company deducts my tax for me. So if I receive £1,000, I know I can spend all of it. I don't need to put £100 aside to pay for my tax 1 year later. If you have a self-assessment basis, in other words, at the end of the year, I will submit my own tax returns, and then based on my my salary, pay slip, and all that, whatever my allowance is, and they'll calculate my tax. Say my tax comes to £1,200. I need to have saved £1,200 in my savings account to make sure that I can pay my tax at the end of the year. You know, I know that when you have money in the bank, it is not easy to save. You say, okay, come towards the end of the year, I'll put the money aside and then I'll pay my tax. Yeah? But a lot of people, when I was young, of course, you don't save money, man. You like to spend, enjoy. So it's quite good that KPMG at that time had a system of where you pay as you earn, so I don't have to worry about putting money aside for tax. Now, if you decide to recommend a pay as you earn system, then obviously companies will need to have proper accounting system, a proper system to monitor and to record the income and tax of each of the individuals, and they have to make sure that they pay the tax to the tax department, just like TAP, on a timely basis every month, at the end of the month. Okay, so what else is there? So today I just wanted to spend time, well, first getting familiar with this team stuff, doing it online. I still feel isolated because I cannot see you all, or I can't hear any of you. So I'm still totally not keen with doing online, but I have no choice. But from next week, I will then give you more information about how you can help with your coursework. So most of my lectures will be more towards general taxation, tax administration, and issues that you need to look at which can help you with your course assignment. Then I will cover in passing maybe what is personal income tax in terms of computation, how to compute capital allowances, how to compute chargeable gains and capital gains tax, and probably talk about losses from a company point of view, group losses, how you can carry forward losses, carry back, and terminal losses. So when a company decides to terminate, what can you do with the losses? So those are the topics from the textbook I will cover, just to make sure that there is sufficient content if ACCA was to ask whether I did cover any of these topics. But the topics that I would cover would be sufficient, I think, for you to do your assignment. But as I said, the assignment is such that, you can use the textbook, or you can use the internet, which a lot of people do. But at the same time, I think you need to, the difference between the good and the bad is when you introduce particular tax, is how do you introduce it, what are the implications, and how will it benefit the government. Just a word of caution, don't put all 10 different taxes, government should introduce this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Concentrate on one or two. If you concentrate on one, do a very in-depth detail on one. If you do two, it's also in-depth, but not as in detail if you're just doing one. Use statistics, maybe, look at the JPKE report, look at the reports done by the countries that you are trying to mirror, so that when you come out with the structure or the proposal, at least it has stand the test of time because other countries has implemented it, and if it's successful, that is something maybe that Brunei can think about. When Malaysia decided to introduce GST, it took them 5 years from the time they announced to the time they introduce it. So just remember that when you introduce a certain tax, you cannot say with effect from tomorrow there will be a tax system. There has to be a time period of maybe 3 to 5 years of implementation, because the government needs to set up their tax department, they need to train the people, the companies need to change their accounting system, the individuals need to be, there need to be a roadshow, I think, to tell people what are the implications of personal income tax, what are the implications of GST and VAT. So it's fair enough trying to recommend something, but go into more detail. What are the implications? How can government soften the approach of introducing the various taxes? Okay. Anything, guys? Nearly, okay, 15 minutes. Questions? Hopefully you've all looked at Canvas already, managed to see the coursework.
Yes, sir.
You have, okay. Great. So as I said, I know, okay, the other thing is, my preference is, when you do your assignment, is to send it to my personal email, Shazali at shazalipartners.com, which I already given in But if you send it to my UBD or whatever, it's okay. But I read, my personal email is on my phone, so I read it almost immediately. Yeah? Sometimes some people send it through Canvas, and I miss reading some of the assignments through Canvas, but then they send it through the other portal as well. But as I said, send me a draft. I don't expect any draft within the next 1 month or so. Yeah? Probably come October time, or end of September, or if you're starting to look at it because there's nothing else to look at in tax, you can start sending me. Don't send me a skeleton with headings only. Yeah? Send me something which has got a bit of meat, so that I can at least. My style is I do not change what you write. I'll just guide you as to what you need to add, or whether you've gone a bit wrong, or whether the text you decided to introduce is a bit crazy. Then you have to rethink about what else you need to do. Okay. So thank you. I don't know whether everybody is present. How many? 46. Oh, okay. Oh, I got more students this time. I thought I only had 41, 42. 46 here.
Sir, you can actually download the attendance report at the end of the meeting.
Oh, how?
After the meeting ends, it will pop up automatically below the meeting.
Oh, okay, okay.
You can just download it.
I'm learning, you see.
Okay.
It's good to learn. Because usually I'm the other way around, yeah? When I get invited to speak, I just... But it's so funny, but it's difficult to, even if I press the link, I don't know whether you all have the same problem. You still need to go through a number of security, process. There's for security code on my phone and all this. I get put off by it, but at least I managed to get through. Okay, so I'll try and learn how to use this share screen. Okay, that's share content, Control-Shift-B, okay, Control-Shift-E. I'll try and do that next week. So I just upload the PowerPoint onto this theme, is it? I think there's a place where you can upload presentation as well, eh? What does it say here? Oh, okay. Share content. So I have to upload first to my profile. Okay, never mind. I'll learn that by next Thursday. Okay then. So that's it. No questions? Is there anything on the chat line? I'm in quarantine, sir, so can't go anywhere. Oh, okay. Stay safe. Stay safe, everyone, because I think the problem is we have 80 over cases where the variant has no source. Nobody seems to know the source. So I have to stay at home. I can't even visit my new grandson. But for the safety of the family, we have to sacrifice a lot. We had a good honeymoon period of more than 1 year, and there was no COVID. But okay, the meeting chat. Everybody can see the chat, is it? Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So I think the important thing is with any report or assignment that you do, graphical presentation, graphs, bar charts, what do you call it, pie charts, it's important because it breaks the boredom, the monotony of just reading words. Yeah. So there are any other ways that you think? I did a specific link to download the textbook. I'm trying to download the new textbook, but I seem to have a problem with the ACCA link. There are copies of the textbook in my office, actually. If anybody, the university is actually open because I went there a few days ago. All the grills were unlocked. Nobody at the university. There was only 2 cars in the car park. They asked me to go through the back door on the G10, but all the doors were open. It's a bit frightening, actually. Anybody can just walk in and out. So there's 2 textbooks in my office. One is bound, one is not bound. So you could take it, I guess. Oh, okay. Your copy is still in my room, yeah. Oh. Okay, in terms of, yeah, okay, so let's go to, are we expected to include computational diagrams? Not expected, but as I said, like anything else, as long as the presentation of your assignment makes it look better on the eyes, then yeah, do some computational, some charts, yeah. The most important thing, I think, put yourself in my shoes. If you were to mark your own assignment, would you be happy with it? Remember that I usually mark assignments after midnight. Yeah, that's my time that I always go through assignments. But now with lockdown, maybe it's different. But there's 40 over. You know, there's a lot of words to look at. So make sure the font is not too small. Okay, links to textbook. Okay, I'll try and see whether I can get the link. Okay, your copy. Group assignment. Wait, according to Dr. Abdul, what he tell me? How many do you usually have for your other assignments, your other modules?
4, I guess.
Not that we have one.
Okay, Dr. Abdul was saying that 3 to 5 should be fine. But I think with 40, 5 is a lot. Maybe 2 to 4. I go down -1. Yeah, 2 to 4. And I think because of COVID, I assume, you know, if you do a group assignment, it's difficult for you to get together anyway as a group. So if it's too big also, it's going to be a bit problematic, yeah? Because you need to decide who does what, who does which section and so on. So maybe 2 to 5 now. So the way I might do it is, for the group assignment is, if you do it as a group, maybe it's 2,005 to 3,000 words. If you decide to do it individually, then it'll be 2250 to 2,005 words. Yeah, so it's individual less words. It's a group slightly more, 500 more words, I think. Yeah. Anything else? No other questions. Okay. It's nice to be able to see you all instead of NM, LH, FT, and SCW. So I don't know who is who. You replied? Where? Oh yeah, group assignment is 40%. Yeah, because I want you to concentrate more on your time on the first assignment. The last year, the assignment, the group assignment related to COVID, it was relevant at the time. In fact, to be honest, it's quite relevant now. And the assignment was basically more like the impact on government revenue due to COVID. But I think I may try and play around. You know. Don't think of the second assignment yet. Yeah. Let me think how to do it. Then I'll get back to you. But the weighting is 40%, because I want to give credit to those who individual assignments. Yeah. Yeah. Is the group assignment members being chosen or pick? You pick yourself lah. Easy. If you want me to do it, I'll put your 46 names in a hat and I'll pick 4. I think the important thing is just, you know, I mean, it's no point me picking, because the assignment is also important that you do well, and it's important that you work in a group where you know each party will contribute to the group. Yeah, my experience with group assignment is I've been doing this for 14 years. So in the first 10, 11 years where there was group assignment, there will always be some groups where one individual probably does not contribute as much as he or she ought to. Yeah. So we get group members complaining that this person has not done this, has not done that. So I'll leave it up to you. If you cannot work with anyone, then do it as an individual. Yeah. Can we use make-up figures for the computation? Yes, you can. Well, most of the examples will be make-up figures anyway. Yeah. Because you don't want to just simply cut and paste from another country. So you can give examples. Yeah. So what other questions are here? So I don't know, do you agree to pick your own group? Or you want me to do the nasty, but then I need to know the full list of people. Would you prefer to pick your own group?
We pick our own group.
Pick your own group, I think easier.
Better.
Because you have to bear in mind that not all of you are the same year, the same batch, yeah? Because some of you are from different intakes as well, yeah? Yes, we pick our own group. Okay, yeah. That's good. So no more than two to four, okay, per group. No need to have so many, yeah. As I said, because it's going to be difficult. I suspect, apart from 3 weeks ago when I met you, I don't think we'll see each other again. I personally feel that this COVID is going to be worse. Well, it's already worse anyway, but will last much longer in terms of the lockdown than the last time. I feel sorry for those who were supposed to graduate last week. I suspect there'll be no graduation this year. And like my daughter in UK, her graduation is 2 years late, so they've decided to do it next year. Not sure whether she wants to go for it, but I mean, everybody is proud to graduate, yeah? So I think, are you all fine? You're all final years, can you all graduate next, what month are we? You'll all be graduating next year, can? Most of you?
Most of us. Yeah.
No, sir. Some of us are second year.
Oh, some second year, okay. Oh, so I'm going to have some of you for my auditing lectures, is it?
We took auditing last sem.
Okay. So none of you will be doing auditing next semester.
I will
we're
be
going
doing some auditing next year. Some of us are doing auditing next year.
Some are doing it, okay. Auditing is a bit easier to do online because it's so boring. I know it's not so boring, but because it can be done via PowerPoint, so it's easier. Auditing is easier to do online. But for example, to me, I think like financial reporting, taxation, management accounting, even financial management to a certain extent is quite difficult to do online because a lot of it relates to computational. And sometimes when I do computational, I like to get interaction, yeah, because you only learn by doing. So for example, if you were to have exams, when you do the examples in the textbook, yeah, I would ask you to write out again the whole example. Do the format, the headings, write out each of these solutions, the answers again, rather than going through the textbook. Because when you write, the format, the pro forma sticks in your brain. So it becomes easier in exams, yeah? And in real life, obviously. The taxation that you see here is exactly how we would present it to the tax department, the Majesty's inspection of taxes in the UK, because I did 6 years of UK taxation dealing with the British authorities. So what you see in the textbook is exactly how it's presented. Some of the rules may seem to be a bit odd, but you still need to follow the rules. Fortunately, you don't have to remember the rules, the format, yeah, for this purpose. But some of you asked whether you can use make-up figure for computation. So obviously you're thinking of computation in terms of how to calculate personal income tax. Maybe throwing the ball in the air. I did recommend to government, for example, like SMEs, instead of having 18.5% tax, is to have a flat rate of tax. In Labuan, if you paid 25,000 US dollars tax, no questions asked. Yeah, you don't have to file audited accounts, you don't have to file tax returns. So they have a flat rate of tax. But if, for example, the company is lower revenue, has got no profit, then you submit your tax returns to justify that you don't need to pay that high level of tax. Just for your information, I'm not sure whether you're aware, but in Brunei, if your turnover is less than 1 million, you're exempted from paying tax in Brunei. Yeah? If turnover is less than 1 million, you're exempted from tax. And that has serious implications here because 97% of companies in Brunei are SMEs. And out of that 97%, 65% are micro industries. Micros meaning they only have 5 or less employees. And to earn 1 million in Brunei is not easy. Yeah, it is very difficult to earn $1 million in Brunei. So a lot of companies in Brunei actually do not have to pay tax. There are, I think, 8,000 Sinumber huts. Only about, from what I gather, 4,000 plus have registered under STARS, which is the online Brunei tax system. The rest are dormant or probably inactive. Or the company, nobody knows where the company is gone. So, if you look at the balance of the 4% of tax collected by the small companies, 8,000 companies, you take out the banks, finance companies, some of the contractors, the SMEs contribute very, very small amount of tax. So maybe they could implement a business tax, $500, $1,000 just to do tax in business, then you don't have to file tax returns. Yeah, I mean, there's no right or wrong answer. Yeah, all depends on the situation. But of course, in Brunei, dulu even when you go to hospital, they charge $1 for ubat pun orang bising. Yeah, green IC is $5, red IC $3. But they don't even like Jorodong. Yeah, you go to Jorodong, dulu it's free. But now you have to pay, and people are making noise. There used to be till they became IBCS. International business, what's that?
International business company, sir. I used to work in that industry before the authority closes it. So yeah, there used to be like thousands more companies in Brunei before.
No, it was under the international, the International Business Financial Center. It was the International Companies Order, which has now been repealed. There was about 2,000 companies registered in Brunei, but 80-90% were from Taiwan. Yeah, so we had a lot of. So then the question was, why did they set up an offshore company in Brunei? Yeah, how come suddenly all these companies are setting up? And they know that the laws in Brunei at that time, 20 years ago, was not strict on confidentiality, on secrecy, and on enforcement and regulatory issues. So they could use Brunei as a channel for money laundering, or anti-terrorism financing. So that's why I think we became concerned about all these companies being set up. There's really no business in Brunei, and there was nothing, no add-on to Brunei. That's why the government decided to stop the International Financial Center. But I think with the stock market, then they may have something around it. But so these companies never paid tax because they are considered offshore. So again, the idea was we try to promote. I mean, I'll give you an example. I brought AMBD, now it's Central Bank of Brunei, to Luxembourg, because they wanted to see how a small country like Luxembourg managed to develop itself as a financial center, fund manager, and a lot of investment setups. So when I arranged with my KPMG office, and in Brunei's population is 500,000, yeah. KPMG's office, we have 22 staff. In Luxembourg, the population is about 700,000, and we have more than 2,000 staff in KPMG. If you do a proportional, we should have 40 here, but we have more than 2,000 staff in the KPMG office, and that is because Luxembourg managed to develop itself as an international financial center, as a hub for investments. Yeah, so that was what Brunei was trying to do, to see whether the International Financial Center here can grow just like Luxembourg, because Brunei has no sovereign debt, so our sovereign risk is very low. And they thought maybe, and because a lot of Bruneians speak English, a lot of Bruneians are IT literate, sorry, not illiterate, IT literate, so we could develop ourselves into an offshore financial center because of the resources we have, because of a low sovereign risk. But I think there's a lot of things that you need to consider when you look at it. So let's see how the stock market works. I've been invited to be a member of the panel for the stock exchange when that sets up. So if that happens, yeah, I can give you more background about how it works now. Yeah. Okay, any more questions on the chat?
Sir?
Yeah, is that Vanessa, is it?
Yeah, I'm kind of confused. You mean, which one is which assignment is individual? Is it 60% or 40%?
Individual is the first one, 60%.
The 60% one?
Yeah.
Okay.
The second assignment, I haven't given it, yeah? Although when you look at Canvas, you can see from last year, it's still there as a message. So ignore this assignment 2 on Canvas. Yeah, so the reason why I've decided to do 60%, because I want to credit individual assignments more than I want on group. Because I think, you know, when you do your make a personal effort to do the assignment, that should be given more credit, I guess, benefit. Because when I agreed with Dr. Abdul 60-40, and that time was just 2 individual assignments, until he messaged me and said, okay, you can have the option of having a group assignment. I said, okay, so I'm just throwing it out to you all. The second one is a group assignment, but if you seek to do it individually, you can do so if you want to. Yeah, there's no harm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. You cannot get everybody on one screen. Yeah? Like all 40 of you in one screen.
Cancer, I think using the large gallery preview.
Why not?
If you click on more actions, there's like a large gallery option.
Those more actions. Show as well. Hide conversation. Breakout room. And then what under where? Meeting option.
More actions.
More
And
action.
then
Yeah, okay. So under more action, what already? And then?
And then large gallery or together mode. So
Okay. Nothing happened.
because I think it needs everybody to turn on their camera.
No, I don't think you have to turn on camera. Just your name there, so enough, is it? No? Oh, together, together.
Yeah.
Oh, that's not what. What do you mean by together? I see
Together
myself
mode.
on the chat.
Yeah. Basically, they show the faces on the screen on the.
Oh, really? Oh, like that. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so it's like that.
I know. I'm learning. Oh, shoot. What happened? Okay. So if there's nothing, I will see you next week. Well, you will see me next week because I don't see any of you. Okay? Bye.
Okay. Bye,
Thank you,
sir.
sir.
Okay.
Thank
Okay
you.
then. Stay safe all.
Thank you, sir.
Yep.
Thank you,
Yeah.
sir.
Take care. Bye.
Thank you. Assalamualaikum.
Bye.
Thanks.